Okay, it's 1 o'clock. I'd like to call this meeting to order. The proceedings of this meeting will be recorded and made available on the internet. We will move on to item 1.2 of our agenda, which is roll call. And I ask our clerk, Jesse Clark, to please call the roll.
Thank you. For council, we have Mayor Terry Lamseth,
I am present.
Deputy Mayor Armstrong,
Present.
Councillor Franzen,
Present.
Councillor Braybrook,
Present.
Councillor Cadigan.
Present.
For staff, we have Donna Taggart, CAO Treasurer,
Present.
Evan Grieger, Director of Public Works,
Present.
Barbara Waldron, Director of Building and Planning, CBO,
Present.
Adele Arbor, Planner. She's there. Bianca Draghi, Deputy Clerk,
Present.
Derek Bertram, Planning Technician,
Present.
and Jesse Clark, Director of Corporate Services Clerk, is present.
Okay, thank you. We can move on now to item 1.3 of our agenda, which is land acknowledgement and moment of reflection. We respectfully acknowledge that Trent Lakes and Peterborough County are located on the Treaty 20 Mississauga territory and in the traditional territory of the Mississauga and Chippewa nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaty First Nation, which include Kirk Lake, Hiawatha, Alderville, Scugog Island, Rama, Beausoleil, and Georgina Island First Nations. Trent Lakes respectfully acknowledges that the Williams Treaty First Nations are the stewards and caretakers of these lands and waters in perpetuity, and that they continue to maintain this responsibility to ensure their health and integrity for generations to come. We will now take a moment to reflect on these principles and our duties and responsibilities as members of council. Okay, thank you. We can move on to item 2 of our agenda, which is disclosure of pecuniary interest. If any member of council has a pecuniary interest on an item on the agenda, please disclose it now or anytime during the meeting prior to discussing anything on the item you have a pecuniary interest in. Seeing no hands, we can move on to item 3 of our agenda, which is the approval of the agenda as circulated. I see Councillor Franzen for a mover. I see Deputy Mayor Armstrong for a seconder. Any conversation about the agenda? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. We can move on to item 4 of the agenda, which is adoption of the minutes. Item 4.1 is a regular council meeting of February 4th, and 4.2 is a statutory public meeting of February the 4th. I would entertain a motion. I see Councillor Braber for a mover, and I see Councillor Cadigan for a seconder. I'm assuming that is to adopt the minutes.
Yes.
Okay. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. We can move on to now item 5 of our agenda, which is committees and boards. Item 5.1 is the Environmental Advisory Committee. And item 5.2 is the Committee of Adjustment. Anyone like to speak to either of those items or are prepared to make a motion? Councillor Friend, go ahead.
Motion to receive both items.
Okay. Do I have a seconder for that motion? The Deputy Mayor Armstrong for a seconder. Any conversation about either item? I'm seeing none. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. We can move on to item 5.3 of the agenda, which is liaison reports for council boards and committees. Does anyone have anything to report? I'm seeing none. We can move on to item 6 of our agenda, which is statutory public meeting pursuant to the Planning Act, which today we have none. And item 7, which is business arising out of the statutory public meeting, we have none. Item 8 is presentations, we have none. Item 9 is delegations, we have none. Item 10 is staff reports. Item 10.1 is public works, and 10.1.1 is Evan Grieger, our Director of Public Works. Would you like to speak to this item, please?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor Lamseth. Through you, Mayor, to members of council, before you today is just the final report for the Deer Bay Reach South Assumption. We've been through a couple different reports to get the survey done to split the cost. And now we're at the point where we received the finalized survey, the registered R plan, and are now at the position where we can complete the bylaw to assume a portion of this Deer Bay Road South, Reach South. Just a quick note, just to sort of re-jog your memory. On this section of road, we've been plowing and maintaining it for a number of years. It's just something that was never actually processed through the original subdivision agreement that was processed back in the early 80s. So this was more of just a paperwork cleanup. We had received a request from the road association in that area requesting that we complete this. have been in contact with them just to update them where we are in the process. And they're very much looking forward to having this cleaned up. I think for them, it's probably more of getting rid of some liability because they're basically insuring a piece of road that we are maintaining anyways. So just sort of a nice little cleanup report. So any questions? I'm here to.
Okay, thank you very much, Evan. Does anyone on council have any comments or questions? Go ahead, Councillor Braber.
Thank you through your mayor. I just wanted to thank you, Evan, for all your efforts working back and forth with the residents. I know there was quite a few back and forths for a span of months. So it doesn't go unnoticed, and it doesn't go unnoticed by council as well as the residents. So thank you for that.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Councillor Braber, anyone else have any comments or questions? I'm seeing none. Is anyone prepared to make the motion? See Councillor Braber for a mover.
I'll make a motion to receive and that council support the bylaw.
Okay, do I have a seconder for that motion? See Councillor Cadigan for a seconder. Any further conversation? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion is carried. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much, Evan Grieger. Now we can move on to item 10.2 of our agenda, which is recreation and facilities. We have no report. Item 10.3, fire and emergency services, we have none. And 10.4, which is building and planning, and 10.4.1. Derek Bertram, our planning technician, would you like to speak to this item, please?
Thank you. And through you, Mayor Lamstead and members of council, the municipality has received an application for a deeming bylaw from property owner Cameron Murray for the lands identified as Plan 46, lots 9, 10, and 11B on Elbow Point Road in the Harvey ward. The purpose of the deeming bylaw is that the owner requires additional area to install a new Class 4 sewage system for future expansion in an existing dwelling. And as both lots are part of the plan of subdivision, a deeming bylaw is required in effect to legally merge parcels. The purpose of the deeming bylaw will be to deregister the lots 9, 10, and 11B from the plan of subdivision so that the parcels may be merged. Staff have advanced a bylaw on today's agenda for council's consideration.
Okay, thank you very much, Derek. Does anyone on council have any comments or questions? The deeming bylaw. I'm seeing none. Is there anyone on council prepared to make a motion? I'm seeing none. I see Councillor Braber. Go ahead.
Thank you. Motion to receive and motion to support.
Okay, do I have a seconder for that motion? Seeing Councillor Franzen for a seconder. Any further conversation about the motion? I'm seeing none. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. If there is a slight delay, I'm waiting for the computer system to catch up to Deputy Mayor Armstrong's hand.
Sorry.
It's okay. No, it's just, I think it's a time delay. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Armstrong. Okay, we can move on now to 10.4.2. Derek Bertram, our planning technician, can you please speak to this item?
Thank you. And through you, Mayor Lamstead, members of council again, the municipality has received another application for a deeming bylaw from property owners Paul Madden and Linda Foster for the lands identified as Plan 15, Lot 3 and 4 and Concession 4 of Part Lot 31 in the Harvey ward. The purpose of the deeming bylaw is to merge a newly severed parcel of land from Lot 3 with Lot 4 being 15 Spur 2, as per the registered plan 45R 17762 attached as an appendix to the report. The consent application facilitated under file B9523 for the lot addition set forth the condition of provisional approval that the deeming bylaw be executed in order to allow for the lot addition to take place within the plan of subdivision. Hence the deregistering from the plan. Staff also presented a minor zoning bylaw amendment on the January 14th council meeting to rezone the remnant parcel of lot 3 to recognize the deficient lot frontage, which was also a condition of provisional consent for file B9523. And staff have advanced a bylaw on today's agenda for council's consideration.
Okay, thank you very much, Derek, for introducing the file. Anyone on council have any comments or questions for Derek about this item? I'm seeing none. Is anyone prepared to make a motion? The Councillor Franzen for a mover, Deputy Mayor Armstrong for a seconder. Any further conversation? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. Okay, we can move on now to item 10.4.3 of our agenda, which is Adele Arbor, our planner. Would you like to speak to this item, please, Adele?
Thank you, and through you, Mayor Lambshead. This report is in reference to council's direction to undertake a municipally initiated zoning bylaw amendment to define and permit saunas as an accessory use in shoreline areas with appropriate zoning regulations. Planning staff, in consultation with the external planning consultant, Chris Jones, have reviewed approximately 8 municipal zoning bylaws from other areas of the province, which included definitions and regulations for saunas. Unfortunately, there were no municipalities within Peterborough County that had any regulations or definitions for saunas. So attached to the report is a draft zoning bylaw amendment, which includes a proposed definition and regulations for saunas that staff feel would be appropriate in Trent Lakes. The report and draft bylaw will be available on the municipal website for public review and comments prior to council's consideration of the proposed bylaw. Therefore, it's being recommended that council receive the report from the planner regarding the proposed zoning bylaw amendment for saunas, and further that council direct staff to proceed with a public meeting to be held at the March 18th, 2025 council meeting, and further that the draft zoning bylaw be available for public review and comment. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Adele Arbor. Does anyone on council have any comments or questions regarding this item? Councilor Braber, go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Thanks very much, Adele. Just a quick question surrounding just reviewing the report. It says that there shall not be any wood burning appliances or stoves. Do you find that's fairly common in, I guess, like municipalities such as ourselves, or is there a reason for that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we did, in the bylaws that we did review, there is always a prohibition on wood burning.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Adele. Any other comments or questions? Go ahead, Councilor Cadigan.
Adele, I'm hoping, through you, Mayor, I'm hoping that you can clarify something for me. I thought I read that these were allowed within 3 meters of the water, and then someplace else it said 30 meters. I'm wondering which is correct.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we have 2 proposed regulations depending on the size of the sauna. So if you have a sauna with a floor area up to 10 square meters, you're looking at a minimum water yard for the sauna to be 15 meters. If the sauna has a floor area of up to 15 square meters, which is larger, then we want the minimum water yard setback to be 30 meters. So the lesser size could be closer to the high water mark, and anything larger would have to be back 30 meters. Now, these are just regulations that we felt would be appropriate, and we're very much looking forward to the public commenting on the proposed regulations. And then we would be happy to report back to council and make any unnecessary adjustments based on the input we receive. So when we hold a public meeting in March, we won't be coming forward with a zoning bylaw amendment at that time, because we do want to hear what the public has to say and review and do some further research if necessary, and bring a bylaw back to the following council meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Adele. Any other further questions or comments? I see Councilor Francis, go ahead.
Yeah, just a quick question. I actually worked on a sauna that was a floating sauna on the lake. Is there any issue with that? And it was wood burning.
We don't regulate anything in the water. It would
Okay,
just be on the property, but thank you for that.
Okay, thank you very much, Councilor Franzen. Thank you very much, Adele, for your quick response. Any other further questions on this item? Okay, I'm seeing none. I would entertain a motion. Go ahead, Councilor Braber.
Motion to receive, also a motion that council direct staff to proceed with a public meeting to be held on March 18th, 2025 council meeting, and further that the draft zoning bylaw be available for public view.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a seconder for that motion? I see Councilor Cadigan for a seconder. Any further conversation? I'm seeing none. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. Thank you very much. Adele, we can move on now to item 10.4.4 of our agenda, which is Barbara Walter, our Director of Building and Planning, CBO. Would you like to speak to this item, please?
Through you, Mayor Lambshead, the purposes of this report is to satisfy the reporting requirements of the legislation and associated regulation of the building code. It just explains what money was brought in, what money was spent, and speaks to what money came from the reserve for 2024. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Barbara. I have Deputy Mayor Armstrong, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Lambshead, and through you. Just two comments, Barb. The first one is good job setting the fees so that we pretty much balanced out our revenues with our costs. So I think that's a very good sign to support our fee schedule. The second one is when we see these reports, so a year from now, it'd be useful to see maybe the last 5 years, because I know some years were over on revenue, some years were under. And so it would just be interesting to see what the trend line is.
Through you, Mayor Lambshead, sure, we can do that. We'll make a note of that.
Okay, thank you very much for your question, Deputy Mayor Armstrong. Any further questions? I am seeing none. Is there anyone prepared to make a motion? I see Deputy Mayor Armstrong, go ahead.
I will make a motion to receive the report and direct staff to make the attached report available to the public per the Building Code Act by posting a copy on the municipal website.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Being Councillor Braybrook for a seconder. Any further conversation? I'm seeing none. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. Okay, we can move on now to 10. Thank you very much, Barbara. We can move on to 10.5 of our agenda, which is finance, and 10.5.1 is Donna Taggart, our CEO Treasurer. Would you like to speak to this item, please?
Yes, thank you, and through you. So the January 23rd special meeting included applications from all organizations requesting a 2025 community grant. There were also delegations made to council at that meeting by some of those organizations. So as required under the community grant policy, members of council have now scored, ranked, and in turn determined a recommended amount using the municipality's evaluation matrix. So a summary of the average amounts determined by council is attached to this report. Thanks, Bianca. So staff are looking for council to provide any direction on any changes to the amounts to be awarded. And then once this is done, amounts will be given to the successful organizations once the 2025 budget is approved by council. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Donna Taggart. Does anyone have any comments or questions regarding this matrix layout? Councillor Franzen, go ahead.
Yeah, through you, Mayor, I just have the one comment that I believe everything seems to be acceptable. I just have a little problem with the Elam Lodge because we turned down a similar facility in the Kinmount area. And I think we should be treating these kind of ministries fairly, whatever religion they are.
Okay, thank you for that comment, Councillor Franzen. Anyone care to go ahead, Deputy Mayor Armstrong?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Lambshead, and thanks for that, Councillor Franzen. I actually have rethought my scoring and amount on that one. And I think I agree. I would prefer to change mine to not award them anything. I'm not sure how that changes the average, but I'm sure Donna can figure that out.
I'm assuming we can do that, no problem at all?
Yes.
Okay. I think it's a decision of council because one person doesn't get to make that decision, all five of us do. Do we like to change the amount from Elam Lodge to 0 from 440?
In favor, yes.
You're in favor?
Yeah.
You're in favor? You're in favor? Deputy Mayor Armstrong is in favor, and I also am in favor. Okay, thank you very much. I don't know if we need that in a motion.
Perhaps
just-
we'll see if there's any more changes to it,
Okay,
and then
perfect.
we can
Okay.
try my best.
Okay. Does anyone else want to make any more alterations or changes? Or I'm seeing no hands. So do we need to make that as a motion to remove that 440?
Yeah, I would suggest that council receive the report and that council approve the grant amounts as outlined in the appendix, with the exception of Elam Lodge amount to be 0.
Okay, thank you very much for that advice.
If we will make that a motion.
Okay, Councillor Franzen for a mover, Councillor Cadigan for a seconder. Any further conversation? I'm seeing none. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. Okay. Thank you very much, Donna Taggart. Now we can move on to 10.5.2 of our agenda. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, just
Councillor
go
Mayberg,
back. Are we out of this block now, or can we discuss another amount?
Oh, sorry, we just approved everything.
Oh, okay.
My
approved everything.
apologies.
That's fine. No, that's okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
If you have another question, maybe that was the time.
No, that's okay.
Okay.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you. Okay, now we can move on to item 10.5.2 of our agenda, which is Donna Taggart, our CIO treasurer, and that's the 2025 budget. Please speak to this item, Donna.
Thank you, and through you. So we'll start today. We're going to hopefully have council approve the 2025 budget and associated tax rates. So next slide, please. So the assessment summary slide reflects the current value assessment for 2025 of 2.8 billion. As a reminder, the province has delayed reassessments province-wide, and values are frozen at January 1, 2016. You will see from this slide, 95% of the assessment sits in the residential class. Next, please. So this slide breaks down the growth for 2024, which is 1.15%. Growth is the difference between the January 1, 2024 value and the December 31st, 2024 value, and it reflects new builds and any renovations. Next, please. So the total 2025 municipal budget is down 5.2 million for a total of 21,057,638. This decrease is due to the completion of the new build at the 49 site. Next slide. So the tax levy increase for 2025 is under this budget 4.04% for a total of 11,387,375. So the tax levy is the amount that is paid by ratepayers, with the balance of the budget funding coming through grants, user fees, borrowing, and reserves. So this is 4.04 tax levy increase would result in an increase of $11.79 per 100,000 worth of assessment. So as this slide shows, that will result in a residential tax rate increase of 2.91% when factoring in growth. So this slide shows how much more between 2024 and 2025 the average residential property owner in Trent Lakes would pay, which is roughly $59.06, using the average assessed value for 2025 of $421,612.80, and that average is for single family detached on the water, and seasonal dwelling on the water in the residential class. So we like to provide you with budget impacts in that current year budget. So in 2025, impacts include increased training certification requirements for emergency services and increased costs for fire dispatch and radio agreements. There are also wage impacts with increases negotiated under the CUPE contract and recently completed compensation review. And there continue to be purchasing delays, delivery delays, and a lack of bidders on projects, increased costs due to inflationary pressures, and increased costs for insurance under joint and several liability. Some cost savings in the budget include continued digitization and process efficiencies, joint purchasing initiatives with the county for surface treatment, winter sand, and calcium. And the budget does include the new revenue for another year coming from producer responsibility and recycling at the depots. And there are potential cost savings for waste initiatives that result in reduced waste haulage fees. So this slide shows that the 2025 budget does contain an increase of 4.37% or $70,767 for the OPP billing. The original billing received for municipal policing for 2025 was actually up just over 351,000. However, the province did end up providing a one-time adjustment for this billing based on the lack of affordability expressed by municipalities. It should be noted that fees are expected to increase significantly for 2026, with the messaging from the province being that it was a one-time reduction for 2025. So when apportioning the budget, you will see that the biggest percentage of costs are associated with capital and public works, and the smallest continues to be parks and recreation. So this slide shows that 54.08% of the budget required in 2025 comes through taxation, with the remaining balance to budget the balance coming through revenue from borrowing, once again, user fees and grants. So the 2025 tax levy requirement for capital is just over 762,000. And this budget includes a plan to build a new building in Buckhorn for fire and public works, road rehabilitation, the Lakehurst Bowl project, and replacement vehicles and equipment, including a new generator at Lakehurst. So with the new build in Buckhorn, just over 60% of the capital budget is for facility work, with the next largest spending being for road construction, followed closely by vehicle and equipment replacement. So the next few slides show the impact of all departments, with the biggest tax levy impact being public works at 4.3 million, followed by other protection services at 2.6 million, with the OPP levy being in that budget. Although these slides contain specifics on spending in all departments, this is broken down further for you on slide 21 and on slide 22, if you don't mind going to these pages, Bianca, please. So these slides show that based on the new tax rate and average assessment in the three main residential classes, the average property owner would pay $1,720.18. And as a reminder, that's just to Trent Lakes alone. That does not include the county and education. So you will see there are specifics on spending responsibilities for each department listed on these slides, with amounts required in order to provide these services. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have on the 2025 budget. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Donna Taggart, CEO Treasurer. Does anyone have any questions or comments for Donna? I can't believe it, but it's true. I have one comment. I think that page 21 and 22, that would be awfully nice to have as a handout when someone tells me that we don't get anything for our Trent Lakes taxes. So I think that would be a kind of a nice, hand that back to someone that shows you exactly what we do with all that money. I think that would be a kind of a nice idea. But other than that, I have no comments whatsoever. This is a fantastic budget. I think we've done our best. I think we've sharpened our pencils where we could. I think this is being fiscally responsible. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, I will ask anyone if they're prepared to make a motion. I see Councillor Cadigan.
Motion to approve the budget as presented.
Okay, do I have a seconder for that motion? See Deputy Mayor Armstrong for a seconder. Any further conversation? I'm seeing none. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. I'm sure Councillor Franzen, whether you wanted to vote on that or not, I didn't see your hand. Okay, thank you.
I had the.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much, Donna. We can move on to item 10.6 of our agenda, which is administration. We have none. 10.7, which is corporate services. We have none. We can move on to item 11 of our agenda, which is correspondence for information. Item 11.1 is the Galloway Hall Board minutes, and item 11.2 is the Kawartha Region Conservation Authority annual report. Go ahead, Councillor.
Receive both for information.
Okay, motion to receive them both. Do I have a seconder for that motion? I see Councillor Cadigan for a seconder. Any further conversation? I'm seeing none. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. We can move on to item 12 of our agenda, which is 12.1 is the Federation of Ontario Cottage Association. Would anyone like to speak to that item? Councillor Franzen, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to speak to that item. I feel the heading should be issues affecting Ontario's rural communities. I went through the list and everything that's on the list in my mind affects waterfront and rural properties within our municipality. And one other comment, I think we should remove cottage owners. I prefer seasonal residents. Some seasonal residents take offense being called cottagers.
Okay. Thank you very much for that, Councillor Franzen. I think Deputy Mayor Armstrong had your hand up as well.
Thank you, Mayor Lamset, and through you. I just wanted to, I was the one who brought this forward for consideration. FOCA is really the only provincial organization that represents waterfront property owners. And in fact, they have membership of 550 cottage associations. So given that we are both a rural municipality, but also the vast majority of our residents live on waterfront properties, I thought it was appropriate for us to add our support to this letter.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments. Anyone else have any comments or questions? I'm seeing none. Is anyone prepared to make a motion first? Councillor Braber, go ahead.
Through you, Mayor, motion to receive or support? Motion to
I think
support?
it's either one, yes.
Yeah, motion to support.
Okay, we have a motion to support. Do I have a seconder for that motion? I have no second. Deputy Mayor Armstrong for a seconder. Any further conversation? I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. Okay. Thank you very much. Now we can move on to 12.2 of our agenda, which is Peterborough County proposed U.S. tariffs on Canadian goods. Would anyone like to speak to that item? Councillor Franzen, go ahead.
I'd really like to speak on this item. It was a little bit upsetting reading it. Whereas on the second whereas, where it says that Doug Ford has outlined several plans, Doug Ford has no standing in the negotiations between Canada and the US. I prefer a Team Canada approach, not an approach from each individual province. Many spots in this report, it mentions Ontario. The fourth bullet down says, whereas trade between Ontario and the United States, it should be trade between Canada and the United States. Because provinces have no standing negotiations at the federal level, I feel it was kind of unfair to name the premier by name. Nowhere in this document is Justin Trudeau mentioned, or any member of the federal team that is negotiating on our behalf. So I would have a hard time supporting this document. I like where it was headed, but the preamble I have a lot of problems with.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments, Councillor Franzen. Okay, does anyone else have any comments or questions? Go ahead, Councillor Braber.
Thank you, through your Mayor. I appreciate Councillor Franzen's comments. I don't see an issue with naming certain premiers of provinces. In the document as a whole, it's proposed that it's to be disseminated to our Prime Minister and basically everybody, all the provinces, all the premiers, and and all the way down to our municipality. So I think it's addressed it, and I believe that, I mean, Ontario as a province is able to do certain types of negotiations independent of our federal government. So although I appreciate Mr. Franzen's, Councillor Franzen's comments, I don't see an issue with this motion.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments. And I think Councillor Cadigan had a question or comment.
Motion to receive.
Okay,
I have one further comment.
okay, go ahead, Councillor Franzen.
And
Should have a second.
it's a comment that it states that the Premier wants to seek stronger economic ties with the US. And I don't think that's worked in the past. I think when we passed the original free trade agreement, we gave up some part of our sovereignty, and I certainly don't want to give up any more.
Okay, thank you very much. I need a seconder for that motion to receive.
I'll second the
Okay,
motion to
we got a
receive.
seconder. Now we can have any further conversation.
All I have.
Seeing no more, I will call for a vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. Okay. Now we can move on to item 13 of our agenda, which is bylaws. We have several bylaws on the agenda. We can do them all at once, or we can do them individually at the desire of council. Councillor Braber, go ahead.
Thank you, through Mayor, do them all.
Okay.
Do them all.
Okay, I have a motion to approve them all. I have a seconder, Councillor Cadigan. Any conversation about any of those items? I'm seeing none. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. Now we can move on to business, or item 14 of our agenda, which is business arising out of a previous meeting. Does anyone have any business arising out of a previous meeting? I'm seeing none. We can move on to item 15, which is notice of motion. Does anyone have a notice of motion? I'm seeing none. We can move on to item 16 of our agenda, which is information items. Does anyone have an information item? I am seeing none. We can move on to item 17 of our agenda, which is our closed meeting. I would need a motion to go into close, please. See Councillor Cadigan for a mover. Deputy Mayor Armstrong for a seconder. This is item 17.1. We are going into closed for the Ontario Municipal Act Section 239.2 to discuss E, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board, Dudney, and F, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, in brackets, Dudney. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. We are going into closed. Okay, we can move on to item 7.2 of our agenda, which is rise from close. I would entertain a motion for same. I see Councillor Cadigan for a mover and Councillor Braybrook for a seconder. Any other conversation? I'm seeing none. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. We are now back into our regular council meeting. Item 18 is business arising from our closed meeting. Item 18.1 is the adoption of the minutes. I would entertain a motion for same. I see Councillor Braybrook for a mover and Deputy Mayor Armstrong for a seconder. I will call for a vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. We can now move on to item 19 of our agenda, which is the adoption of the confirming bylaw. Item 19.1 is the confirming bylaw. Councillor Braybrook for a mover, Councillor Franzen for a seconder. Any conversation? I'm seeing none. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. We can move on now to item 20 of our agenda, which is adjournment. Would anyone like a motion to adjourn? Councillor Braybrook for a mover, Councillor Cadigan for a seconder. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. We are adjourned. Deputy Mayor Armstrong, please enjoy your holiday and thank you very much for attending virtually.